Miami over Duke, another ACC game, highly scored here. Joe, your thoughts on Miami over Duke?
Okay, let's see how quickly we can go without yelling at each other. I keep coming back to this, and I stand by this. This Miami team reminds me a lot. It's not a full one-on-one comparison of Washington last year. There were tons of games and tons of situations where it felt like they were out of it. They were going to lose. They weren't playing their best ball. Their offense was so potent that they could pull themselves back up into any situation and then completely flip it on their opponent and dominate them. That's what they did against Duke. Is their secondary inconsistent, and are they giving up a lot of big plays? Yes, that is a concern. It's something that's going to cost them in their hardest matchups in the future. I don't think, though, based on what we've seen in ACC play, that any of these ACC teams are going to challenge Miami. I don't think Clemson or SMU are going to present enough of a challenge to knock them off in the ACC championship game. And I think that this Miami offense is good enough to go on a run and to win multiple games in the playoff. Yes, again, to reiterate, their defense will hurt them at some point. It will cost them a football game, but I don't think it's going to be any time in the near future. Cam Ward is one of the most gifted and exciting quarterbacks that I've ever had the opportunity to watch. He can make so many plays that only 1% of quarterbacks, maybe 0.1% of quarterbacks that have played the game are capable of doing, where he can improvise, he can make throws. He still makes some crazy bad decisions at times, like the one pick that he threw, but he dices up any defense when he's given the opportunity to do so. When your offense is the best in the country, Blake, you don't always need an elite defense to pair with it. If you're just straight up outscoring teams and you're playing 3-point basketball, it freaking works.
This isn't 3-point basketball, though.
Because
as good as those Warrior teams were, they had a really good defense, too, that you can't ignore. So if you want to call it like that,
I didn't compare them to the Warriors. I'm just saying it's like a team that takes a lot of threes.
Team, who do you think about?
I do think about the Warriors, but I didn't compare them to the Warriors.
Hush.
It's a broad statement.
Okay, here's what I'd say. I agree with you massively offensively. They're the number one offense in the country. It's not remotely close. Restrepo's insane. I still think they need to run the ball more. I mean,
they have success when they do it.
They have a lot of success when they do it. And here's the thing. If you're going to continue to allow explosive plays, like if that's what you're going to do, Joe, at some point you got to ice things. It's tough when you have a guy like Cam Ward who throws for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. But here's the thing, Joe. Both quarterbacks in this game went 25-41. Both had over 3 touchdowns. You expect it from Cam Ward. You have no reason to expect it from Malik Murphy. 0. Now, he threw 3 picks in there. It's what ultimately got Duke beat. Okay? Those 3 interceptions were horrifying. But the bottom line is they are allowing, regardless of when it clips them, if it clips them, whatever. One thing that is a very glaring weakness. Joe, you had 109th offense in the country in Duke coming in here. And we said in the pregame of this that Duke's just not the team that's going to be able to get explosive plays on you. They can't do it against anybody. Why are they going to do it against you? And they did. Over and over and over again. And I told you that this corner room continues to get lost in man coverage. You're right. Probably going to win the ACC. I picked them to win the ACC too. Pick Cam to win the Heisman. Joe Hagan had 9 catches, 135 yards, and a touchdown. There's going to be teams that you play that have better quarterbacks and better receivers than this. They're going to dice you up. I'm sorry. As much as you – again – I
just don't think that matters. I understand what you're saying, too.
Okay.
I just don't think that matters.
Get past the playoff or get past the ACC for a minute, get in the playoffs. You get paired up with the right team, you're going down.
Okay, well, let me ask you – wait, hold on. Let me ask you this, though. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot with this question, but, like, out of the quarterback play to this year has been down. Of the teams that are prospectively going to play in the playoff, how many quarterbacks actually scare you? I can only think of 5. I don't think there's very many that are
– scare me. Cam Ward definitely scares me.
No, but I'm saying if Miami played against some of these teams, like I don't think that there's very many explosive offenses in the field.
Let me give you this, okay? Think of the teams that Miami have played right now, and you're talking about the teams that would be in the top 12. All of them can be dangerous more than these teams that Miami's sticking around with. Miami fans can stay pissed off at me. You can be mad at me all you want to. And that is okay. You can outscore teams. Go right on ahead and try to do it. But there's going to be a team that, Joe, you only have four, okay, power conference champs, and you're going to be one of them. Think of all the teams. Let's just say hypothetically Georgia, who we just got done talking about. Georgia, you can't do that to them. You can't do that. I'm going to be real with you. You can't allow Nico Iamaleava to have explosive plays on you with that running game. You can't allow, Joe, Ohio State or Oregon, one of those teams are going to be in there and going to get matched up with them. It is a bona fide fact. And if you got Megatron Jr. and Megatron Sr. along with what we're going to talk about Oregon next year, Joe, again, at some point, this is going to clip you. All those quarterbacks and all those teams I just named, they are better than this passing attack. They are better than Malik Murphy. So the bottom line is this is yet another game. Hold on, pause. I got absolutely abused by Miami fans all week saying that your massive problem is allowing teams to stay around and that your secondary is getting lost in coverage. It happened yet again. What about Florida State?
Yeah,
They're
but okay.
1-8.
But Blake, I think that part of the pushback and the reason why I'm pushing back against you is they're acknowledging that that's an issue. It is an issue.
No,
but I don't think that it is.
Acknowledge that to me. What they acknowledged is that you're a hater, you're a bum, you don't like Miami, even though I picked them to win the ACC. But I know one thing that's true. One thing that's true is we've seen college football teams constructed like this. We have.
But that's my whole point is that, again, we literally have an example from last year. I understand that you want to point out that they lost in the national championship
I can
game,
name 20 other years.
Washington outscored Texas in the Sugar Bowl and went on to the national championship game. They outscored Oregon twice when they played squared off with them. They outscored USC, which had a prolific offense. They were able to just outmuster them. They were able to put up more points on the board if they had to.
Okay. I remember, let's take it out of Washington's hands for a moment. I'm going to go to the greatest of all time. You know what Nick's later teams had issues with?
What?
They were almost in the hundreds to the 120s in explosive play rate defensively. At some point, there was going to be a team that would clip them. And it continued to happen, which nobody wants to talk about with Nick. Again, I am conceding the massive fact that there is nobody that's there that's going to challenge him. But God forbid the day that Cam Ward is off or this offense is off. It's coming. Because I
just think you're pitching a lot of hypotheticals here. I mean, like they just keep proving that notion wrong.
Joe, it was a 7-point game with 7 minutes left to go?
But then how much did they win? Okay. I get it's important to bring that up, sure. But how absurd is it for them to have won by how much they did, despite them being down as much as they were, and also being a 7-point game?
Duke did not have an answer. And Duke is not the team that's going to have an answer. They're Duke.
You said this earlier on in the game, in the show. Good teams find ways to win when they're not playing good. We say that all the time on this program. Like we can't give Miami credit for doing that. They played a shitty second quarter and they bounced back.
Ohio State. Ohio State played a top 5 ranked team.
We also say that about teams on this show when they play bad teams and they bounce back and they finish. Like we said that again about Georgia. When Georgia played Kentucky, we talked about how even though that they played like shit, they still found a way to win and they finished off the game. I think that Miami deserves credit for that.
Again, though, who is the level of opponent?
They still won by over 20 points.
Fair. All right. How did our TCU and Washington takes when me and you talked about them? How did it wind up ending for? Hold on. Just tell me the truth. How did it end up for both of those teams?
BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts. I was correct in saying that they were good enough to reach the national championship games.
Okay.
I was overly ambitious in stating that they could win it, and I was stupid for doing so.
Okay. So again, to the
I'm not
point,
saying they win the national title. I think that they can get to the
until
quarterfinals.
Miami can show that they can be a complimentary football team, at any given moment, they're on upset alert for me. I'm sorry. There's going to be a team you're going to be down offensively in the game. Joe, this one.
They've done they literally have done this though. They played like shit against Cal and then and Virginia Tech. They played awful for 3 quarters and then they put together some ridiculous comebacks.
Joe, name a conference outside the ACC that they could do this in and get away with it.
That doesn't have anything to do with
what I'm serious. Name the conference they could do this in.
They're playing in the ACC, so that it doesn't matter.
Name the conference. I'm asking you. Name a conference that they could be in outside of the ACC that they could get away with this.
I'm not answering that because we're not talking about other conferences.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, you don't want to concede the point, but if you could they do this in the Big Ten?
Yes, with how bad some of the
could they do this in the SEC?
No, they couldn't do this in the SEC. No team can do this in the SEC.
So again, when you're going up against Duke, Joe, how many teams in the SEC and the Big Ten would love to play Duke right now?
Duke is not that bad of a football team.
You literally, how dare you? You literally came out here last Tuesday and talked about how they are a Fugazi football team and they're so
no.
Do you want me to pull up the Wednesday show? You legitimately said that they were horrible offensively. And the fact
they were. Okay, wait. Coming into it statistically, I said that they weren't very good offensively, but I didn't come in here saying that they were some shit level team. They have a winning record, which is and competitive performances that they have put together. All my take was with Duke is that they were not good enough to be the team that beat Miami, to upset them, and that was true. All right, we got what we're going to talk about. Let's start. We're circling the same argument.
Lost your godforsaken mind.
Washington got me a nice following when I supported them, and the Miami fans love me. And I think my take is apt, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. Same with the Oregon fans.
You're doing it for fans. That's all you're doing.
No, I'm not.
Danny Cannell of the Ruffino and Joe show.
But it's not that, because I leaned into the take because I had faith in it, and that was why that fan base liked me. And now Miami's doing the same thing.
Didn't they hate you a year ago?
They did, and now they love me. This is how this works.
Miami? Didn't you hate the Miami fans?
I didn't. They hated me. Don't try to turn this. Don't try to turn this.
I remember when you hated them because they were after you had Tyler Van Dyke.
I didn't like Tyler Van Dyke. That was more specific.